Now, in the United States, you may have noticed by now that Joe Biden gave a big speech to Congress. He did so, talking about, among other things, billions of dollars worth of infrastructure spending. But the infrastructure spending isn't the type of infrastructure that you and I grew up knowing as being infrastructure. Instead, well, everything from free childcare to free everything is apparently infrastructure.
Throughout our history, if you think about it, public investment in infrastructure has literally transformed America, our attitudes as well as our opportunities. The Transcontinental Railroad, the interstate highways, united two oceans and brought a totally new age of progress to the United States of America.
Old swampy Joe, doesn't he love it? Now, of course, there was no ripping up of this speech from Nancy Pelosi. And what about the absurdity that every person in that parliament today had been vaccinated, yet they're still wearing the masks, they're still social distancing? Now, if you want to say that's because they're sending a message, the message was sent by the president, which is if you want to get a vaccine, go get a vaccine. Other than that, it's got to be back to normal, right? But because they want to keep the cover of crisis for as long as possible, because they want to make it seem like the United States was this smouldering wreck because of Donald Trump, not the China virus, they now see this as an opportunity to spend more money than any government ever before to fix their systemic problems. You know, like the ones Joe Biden was more than happy to make worse when he was a senator. This bloke who has only been in power for the best part of 3 and a bit months, about 100 days, he is about to spend a grand total of, and I'm not making this up, $10 trillion, T4 trillion, on all sorts of special schemes. Now, they all come under the cover of COVID relief or small business relief, but it ends up funding a whole grab bag of things that even Bernie Sanders thought were impossible. Hence why part of the Republican reaction to this speech in the United States was this from a former governor in New Jersey.
The University of Pennsylvania, certainly not a bastion of conservatism, has looked at the Biden jobs plan and said it will create no new net jobs and will cause a lower GDP. But here's my overarching thought about it, David. The words of this speech sounded like what you would hear from a 15-year-old if you gave him a credit card with no credit limit on it, except the words came out of the mouth of an adult who should know better.
Why are they wearing the mask? They are all vaccinated, yet the theatre of all of this continues. Oh, and as for the media, will it surprise you that they thought this bloke was the second coming, sitting there and droning on, putting himself to sleep, let alone everyone else with his garbage today?
It's very large initiatives with large price tags, but ambitious, but may ultimately prove very popular. He went down the list. I mean, he ticked virtually every issue.
He was so passionate about human rights that we have not heard in the State of the Union in some time.
In many ways, President Biden rose to the moment. That's why the White House is pushing forward with these big initiatives and essentially daring Republicans to stand in the way of initiatives that are popular.
Bold new plan to not only build America back, in his words, but build America back better.
A lot of the things that are in those spending packages are incredibly popular.
He speaks as a deal-making moderate, but he governs as a progressive. He governs like FDR or LBJ.
Fair dinkum. As for the official response from the Republicans, they decided to use a senator from South Carolina, a bloke called Tim Scott. If you were paying real attention to the American presidential election, this bloke gave lots of great speeches in support of Donald Trump. But beyond that, he now looks like he's going to be a star in and of himself. This was the Republican speech in response to that credit card spending like a 15-year-old.
Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country. It's backwards to fight discrimination with different types of discrimination. And it's wrong to try to use our painful past to dishonestly shut down debates in the present.
So did the media celebrate the fact that this African-American voice was a wonderful example of what can happen in the country? No, they treated him like he was uppity.
America's not a racist country. There's no racism here. I'm not sure what the purpose of this was. His audience, to me, appeared to be conservative, white Republicans who are angry over certain things of cancel culture and the same sort of cultural nods that we hear on Fox News. And he was out here to throw them a lifeline. I'm shocked and a bit embarrassed for him. This was a lost opportunity. Tim Scott has an opportunity to make his mark on criminal justice reform, and this ain't going to do it.
And he spoke about all of those things. They just didn't pay attention because, of course, just like a conservative woman here in Australia, to be an African-American conservative in the United States means you're not part of the brotherhood, you're not part of the sisterhood. You somehow have betrayed your skin, which is, of course, ridiculous.